see, Uncle Roddus back again. Another video. Got a couple of 3 new records to show, and just talking about some other bits and pieces that I've got to show. Anyway, what am I doing? New records. Last night I went to a gig in Christchurch. It was actually election night. We've had a general election here. It's been a few weeks before you see this video, but the election didn't quite go the way I was hoping it would, unfortunately. At the moment we've got it's going to be a few weeks before we know what's going on. Some of the parties will get together and form a coalition, and so it may still work out all right in the way I wanted it to, but in you know, most of my friends. Anyway, so we went to the gig last night, and there were 3 bands on. It was a punk gig at the Dark Room, which is a place I go to a lot, and they were called Master Blaster, and I knew they had these records, little records out, 7-inch singles or 7-inch EPs, because I'd heard one of the tracks on Chris Walker's radio show. This was the first, or the latest EP. There's 6 tracks, about a minute a piece. Pass Out as it's called. The artwork is done by Sam Ovens. I was going to pull his record out. He's actually a musician too, who I met briefly in Dunedin, and I've shown his record. He's in a punk band, or was in a punk band called Gravemind, who put out a pretty cool record. And the other EP is this one here. Has it got a name? It hasn't really got a name. This is from 2016, this one's from this year. So again, this one's only got 4 tracks on, but again they're only about a minute, just over a minute each, so they're pretty short. It was a good gig, very, very full on. The band played for about 40 minutes, I guess, which is quite surprising considering how short their songs are. I couldn't quite make out the songs that well, to be honest. The guitar, there's some good guitaring on these, some good riffs, and which is what attracted me to it. And it turned out that they had the guitar, I thought it was turned down in the mix too much, so it just kind of all became part of the sound as a wall of sound. So you had a ferocious drumming and the bass thundering away, and then the guitar just adding to the noise without actually being a bit more prominent, and then the vocalist screaming his head off. Yeah, very energetic, but I enjoyed it. It was cool. I haven't been to a punk gig like that to be honest, I can't remember the last time. 30 years ago plus. And I mean, the punk thing, by the time I was old enough to go to the pubs in Christchurch, it kind of blown over by then, although there were still a few bands around, I'm sure, but they, you know, they're pretty underground. Anyway, something completely different. This one here, Jenny Mitchell, a little note she wrote me on there. Bought this off her Bandcamp page. She is from the sprawling metropolis of Gore, a tiny wee place just down near Invercargill in the bottom of the South Island, pretty much the bottom of the world. The Old Oak. She's a solo singer-songwriter. I can't even remember how I sort of stumbled across her from something. She did actually play up here recently. I didn't get a chance to see her, unfortunately. I wasn't too sure how this was going to pan out. She was very slow at getting it sent away, which is hence why there's a lovely little note on here apologising, and she signed the back of it for me. Yeah, this woman was actually a runner-up in one of the New Zealand's Got Talent things, which is something I do not watch at all. Yeah, so this is Americana. I mean, there's a pretty big list of musicians lined up on the back of it that she's played with over the various tracks. This is absolutely stunningly good. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. She has got a fantastic voice. She's crafted some pretty quality Americana songs, you know, country songs. Yeah, I listened to it basically 3 times a day. I got it, and then a couple more times. She actually sent me a CD copy as well, so I was able to put that on in the bedroom and listen to it while I was off drifting off to sleep. So yeah, that was a really good score. Local bit of local talent, you know, from way down in Gore. Gore is actually a kind of a country mecca in New Zealand, but not that sort of country music. I mean that horrible smulchy, commercial, yucky country music that I hated when I was younger. That really was what put me off listening to country music. I mean, the only person that I really liked out of the original country music we heard when I was a kid would be Johnny Cash. One that I have had for a few weeks and hadn't got around to showing it, and part of the reason was that one of the videos I was making, my battery went flat. If you've seen that video, you probably would have known about it. And I didn't get to show this. Miles Davis, Freedom Jazz Dance, the Bootleg Series Volume 5. This was a triple LP out on Sony Music, Columbia Legacy. I've got all of the bootleg series that he's put out so far, so I've got the other 4 volumes. This is probably the one with the least number of records, actually, because they sort of go from 8 records down to about 4 on the last one. Really disappointed with this. This is really for hardcore fans. There is basically, it's all studio outtakes, and basically the music is stopping and starting, and there's conversations, and then so they'll play the same bit over about 4 or 5 times and then stop it and repeat it and stop it and repeat it because it didn't quite work out, and then there'll be some conversation, and then pretty much every piece I've listened to has been like that, and then they'll get a bit more of the song, but you don't just get a whole piece of music. I mean, I really don't get into that kind of stuff. It was one of the reasons I didn't buy the big fancy Bob Dylan one. Was it the 18-disc version of the last bootleg of his bootleg series, because it was all these outtakes and stops and starts. I mean, frankly, I don't know really who would be interested in that. Fanatical collectors, fanatical fans that want to have every possible thing that they can get from someone. Musicians maybe, you know, hearing the process. But frankly, yeah. So I'll keep it because it's part of a collection, but I'll probably never listen to it again. If I want to hear the music, I can just listen to it, the full songs on something else. So that's pretty much the latest vinyl. To be honest, I really am short of funds nowadays. It's kind of caught up with me a wee bit, and work's really slow at the moment. So yeah, unfortunately, I won't be buying much. But I think I showed in an earlier video that I picked up a book about a guy called Mike Knock, and he is a jazz pianist in New Zealand, or was. He was born in New Zealand. He doesn't actually live here anymore. He probably hasn't lived here for many years, although he did come back a few times. He's recorded here. He recorded an LP recently here for Rattle, which I've got on CD. You know, I think he's fantastic, and I've shown these records before, but I might as well go through them again because I'm reading his biography and really enjoying it, and I love his music. Playing in the background is Mike Knock with Frank Gibson. Frank Gibson is a very well-known jazz drummer in New Zealand. He's appeared on just untold many recordings. This is on Ode, so it was a local release here in New Zealand in 1980 something. I don't actually find it. It was early 80s, maybe 84, somewhere around there. Yeah, that was the album that got me into Mike, actually. Currently, turned out I actually had a Naxos CD that he put out many years ago, well not many years ago, in the 2000s, which I had listened to it a few times, hadn't really connected with it, but played it again recently and really enjoyed it. So going backwards again, this is another Mike Knock quintet. This is a recording he did when he was in New York. Mike had played with Yusuf Lateef for quite some years, and off and on with other reasonably well-known jazz people over the years. But this is a quartet that he was running. This was from 1979, in, out and around, featuring Mike Brecker, George Mraz and Al Foster. Yeah, and this is pretty cool. This is a pretty nice nice record. Picked this up for a good price, surprisingly, you know, because you don't see it around very much, Mike Knock stuff. and it's in good shape. Earlier Mike was in Australia. He started off in Auckland and then off to Australia in the very late 50s, and then jumped over to the States where he started really getting himself together and getting known. And I mean, he's a pretty awesome guy. And later on when he was in the States, he was in a band. He started a band called The Fourth Way, and I picked up. They had 3 albums out from like 1968, 69, 1970. I'm not sure the order exactly, but there's this one, The Fourth Way, self-titled, on Capitol Records, and looking for a date really doesn't tell me. No. Yeah, on Capitol. So this is kind of like jazz fusion, but they're playing electric, so he's playing organ and electric violin and bass and drums. So there's that one, and then the next one, or maybe this was the first one, I'm not 100% sure, but this one's on Harvest actually. I think this must have been the second one. Fourth Way, the sun and the moon have come together. Can I see a date? No, don't tell me no dates. Or, let's have a look. I think this is a gatefold. Yes, it is. Yeah, so this is on Harvest. And there's no dates anywhere. Nice. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, bought this. Had to import these off Discogs actually, because they're just you don't see them in New Zealand. So yeah, like I say again, jazz fusion, and then so that was their second LP, and then their last one is The Fourth Way's Werewolf, and this was the last one. This is from 1978, and it was recorded live at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and yeah, pretty cool. I mean, these aren't really like mind-blowing records. They're pretty cool. Most of the material I think was written by Mike, certainly on this LP. He did a really cool album which I haven't got my hands on yet, on ECM in 1981. That's one of his peaks apparently. I know a couple of people have got it and have highly recommended it, so looking forward to finding a copy of that eventually. So yeah, I'm just going to play through those while I'm reading the book, and that. So yeah, that's pretty much my video for this time around. So yeah, I can't see me being able to buy any records for a little bit until things pick up again. Yeah, hopefully work's going to pick up again. Like I say, this has actually been a pretty quiet year for me work-wise. Still enough work to come in to keep me out of trouble and keep me buying records, but it's actually has dried up a bit, so we'll have to see what happens there over the next. It's a New Zealand wide thing. I understand. My contractors association was talking about it in one of their newsletters recently, that there's a bit of a downturn at the moment, so yeah, we'll see what happens, but we battle on, and hopefully there'll be some money coming in again for more records. So we'll see you again next time.